Greetings, friends. Prepare for another thrilling journey as we delve into Reddit's most bizarre tales. We're plunging deep into the quirkiest corners of the web. Grab your popcorn and join us on this adventure. Remember to hit subscribe and like. Let's begin. We've been together for 15 years, and for the last 3, we've been married. We share a beautiful 3-year-old daughter who means the world to both of us. But these past 3 years have tested us in ways I never imagined. It all began about 5 years ago, right before COVID changed everything. I was working a decent job, pulling in $70,000 a year, but living near DC meant that money barely stretched. When we found out we were expecting our daughter in the middle of the pandemic, it hit me. Our cramped, subpar apartment wasn't where I wanted to raise her. We needed something better, a safer neighborhood, a real home. My fiancée wasn't working at the time, so I knew the responsibility was mine. I decided to make a big change, transitioning into it to become a software developer. In just 6 months, I landed my first developer job, and it felt like everything was falling into place. We moved into a nicer apartment in a good area, and we were ready to start this new chapter as parents. Then came the wedding plans. My fiancée wanted us to marry in our birth country, surrounded by her extended family. When I crunched the numbers, the cost came to a staggering $70,000. I told her I'd need to work extra, take on multiple contracts to make it happen. We both agreed it was worth it, so for nearly a year, I juggled 3 jobs. It was exhausting, but I was committed. But as the wedding date approached, the cracks began to show. My fiancé started saying I wasn't giving her enough attention, that I was neglecting her. It was hard to hear because I work from home. I'm always there physically, but the work was relentless. We had several arguments. I tried to explain that I was doing everything I could for our family, that I was exhausted from the pressure of making ends meet and preparing for our future. But she grew increasingly distant, cold, and passive-aggressive. She even accused me once of not satisfying her sexually anymore, which cut deep. I know I've had my off moments, but hearing her say it out loud stung more than I can describe. The way she would shut me out, refusing to talk until I practically begged to know what was wrong, made me start to resent the person she was becoming. I felt like she was being selfish, not seeing the toll this was taking on me. I was doing everything I could to make sure she and our daughter never had to struggle the way we did growing up in low-income families in East Africa. Yet, despite these growing tensions we went through with the wedding 3 years ago, since then we've managed to buy a house in an affluent neighborhood, a place where we can give our daughter the kind of life we never had. My salary has soared from $70,000 to $400,000 a year in just 4 years. But with every success, the distance between us grew. The fights haven't stopped. I feel like she doesn't see or appreciate the sacrifices I make for our family. She feels neglected, unloved, and I can't even deny it. I'm so drained from her constant lack of appreciation that it's hard to feel anything but frustration. She thinks I'm taking the easy way out, that I don't understand what it's like to be in her shoes. But I've told her repeatedly that if this marriage is going to work, we both need to put in the effort. She, however, insists she's done nothing wrong and that it's all on me to fix this. I'm at my wit's end, feeling like I'm raising 2 children instead of 1. Things took a darker turn one night when I was working late on a project for one of my contracts. I had been spending more and more time locked away in my home office, trying to meet deadlines and, truthfully, avoiding the growing tension between us. She had been spending more time out of the house, claiming she needed a break, that she was going to a friend's place or out shopping. I didn't think much of it. After all, who was I to question her need for some space when I was taking so much of my own? Then, one evening, she came home later than usual. I noticed she was more dressed up than I'd ever seen her when she was just going out with friends. It gnawed at me, but I pushed the thought away. After all, I didn't want to start another fight. But over the next few weeks, her late nights became more frequent, and her attitude toward me grew even colder. There was a disconnect I couldn't ignore anymore. One night, unable to sleep and plagued by the gnawing feeling that something was off, I decided to check her phone, a move I had never considered before. What I found confirmed my worst fears. There were texts from a man I didn't recognize, messages filled with flirtation and arrangements to meet. My heart sank as I realized she had been seeing someone else during those nights she claimed to be with friends. I confronted her the next morning, my hands shaking as I showed her the texts. She didn't deny it. She just stared at me, her face a mask of exhaustion and something else. Relief, perhaps, that the secret was out. She told me it started innocently, that she needed someone to talk to, someone who made her feel alive again, someone who wasn't constantly buried in work and stress. What began as a friendship had turned into something more, something that shouldn't have happened but did. Hearing her confession was like being punched in the gut. I had been killing myself to provide for our family, to give her and our daughter the life I thought they deserved, and in the process, I had lost her. Or maybe she had lost me. Either way, our marriage was now on the brink of collapse, and I didn't know if it could be saved. I took a few days to process everything. I couldn't bear to look at her, let alone talk to her. The house felt colder, emptier, despite her still being there. I thought about our daughter, the life we built, and the love that had once been so strong between us. Was it worth saving? Could I ever forgive her? Could she forgive me for the part I played in driving her away? After a lot of soul-searching, we decided to try counseling. We owed it to ourselves and our daughter to see if there was anything left to salvage. But the trust had been shattered, and rebuilding it was going to be the hardest thing either of us had ever done. To those who've been through something similar, or who've weathered the storms of long-term marriage, is this what marriage is supposed to be like? I've always heard that marriage is hard work, but is this kind of conflict, betrayal, and disconnect normal?